Welcome, Tube Dwellers, to the third and final TLO versus Harstem game from the Dreamhack Summer 2013 tournament. It is 1-1. This is the ace match. We are playing on Belshir Vestige, spawning in the top left, allowing his opponent a quick pause. LiquidTLO. His opponent, spawning in the bottom right. The Protoss with the cheese. FnaticHarstem. Cheese is a viable strat. If there is any build that cannot hold off a cheese pressure, it is a dishonest build. Your build needs to be solid against anything your opponent can do. And cheese is one way to exploit gaps when that's not the case. Again, Harstem is putting a pylon on the low ground outside of his natural. He's also scouting immediately with the probe. Very familiar look from the past two games. And I've already spoiled a little bit. Game 2 is where Harstem was able to use a cannon rush to throw TLO off early, follow up with gateway pressure, supported by an Oracle to defeat TLO's Zergling and Swarmhost defense. Game 1 was an Immortal Sentry all-in. I'm hesitant to call an all-in cheese. The Immortal Sentry push is an incredibly strong one, and especially on small maps, a lot of Protoss feel as though it's pretty much your only choice. It can be incredibly hard to deal with pure roach pressure off 3 bases on smaller maps especially. A great way to deal with that is to hit them with a solid counter before that's even able to take off, before it's able to get off the ground. Similar dichotomy exists whenever I play Zerg against Terran on a small map. You can do Roachling Bane all in that kind of exploits the opponent in the same way. Hits them with a unit that's tough to deal with right before they get out what they would need to deal with it. And it's totally viable. Sometimes an all-in is the best opportunity you have to put the damage on him. Especially given that TLO has been playing out of his mind lately. He's been coming in top 8 in tournaments left and right. Not that that's something he never did before, but even now it's more impressive as the number of top-tier Koreans increases. TLO, this is very interesting. He got out 4 Zerglings, and he put a base out at his 3rd in kind of a wonky position. He got out a 5th and a 6th to go for the pylon, but his first 4 Zerglings, he bypassed the pylon. He ran straight past it, and he's going over to Harstem's front. Now, Harstem has created a full wall in here. This gateway can be cancelled, and it looks like there's enough space that he might be able to reposition it, move this gateway around. If he cancels this gateway, he may be able to put a cyber core up instead in a position that still allows him the wall without fully walling off. Allows him a single block choke. And yep, that's exactly what he's going to do. Your single block is over here. Zealot, a probe, can sit in that, and it's basically a full wall off, supposing that that unit is on hold position. So a much more calm early game here in game number 3, as opposed to game number 2. TLO's extended natural has come up. Harstem checks on it to be sure. He wants to make sure that's not cancelled. He wants to make sure it's not going to turn into some kind of roach pressure. Harstem did see this base in production, but hasn't seen it finish. However, TLO has shown no signs in this series thus far of doing roach pressure. In fact, defeating the Immortal Sentry all-in game number 1, he excluded roaches altogether. He beat the push with Zerglings and a few Banelings and a +1 melee upgrade, and he was going immediately into Hydras right behind it. TLO is going to send his Zerglings to the corners of the earth to find probes, attempting to find proxies. Anything that Harstem may want to toss out to make some pressure better a little later on. And actually, it wouldn't quite be coming out yet, but having Zerglings over here is going to allow TLO to very easily begin searching around when that time does come. And nice. TLO spotting out the Overlord. TLO with eyes on the minimap, with eyes on the enemy's base. He's going to swagger into the main with an Overlord. Simultaneously, he's going to check for a third, and maybe even poke some Zerglings up to the front. He sees that Harstem has a probe out here. He wants to put it down. There the Nexus goes. Harstem, this is a very fast third. Harstem hasn't put any additional tech out. He has a single gateway. He's been chrono boosting probes fairly religiously. He hasn't been spinning the chrono boost in many other places. And the second he takes out the Scouting Overlord, we do see additional gateways come down. Still just 4. That's a pretty small number altogether. He's focusing real hard on getting this third up very quickly. Let's see if TLO has any plans for dealing with that. Ling speed is on the way. He's got a good amount of Lings on the map. This isn't so many Lings that I think it really indicates anything. He is continuing to build more, though. And the Baneling nest is coming up. Ling Baneling from TLO consistently against Protoss. That's very interesting. Generally speaking, the suicide of Banelings and the high hit points of Protoss makes engagements of Ling Bane on any kind of Protoss composition very difficult to be cost effective with, but it seems that TLO is confident, and this is the kind of Ling count that I think indicates something. He is moving out with a lot of Zerglings. He's coming from all corners. I like how split up his Zerglings are. It's actually going to make it very difficult for Harstem to get a bead on exactly what kind of pressure he's facing here. He's probably going to try to defend, and sure enough, he's bringing in Zealots. He's almost got +1 finished, and this is going to finish before the Ling pressure takes shape. I love the position of the Zealots, too. They're all around this cannon. TLO's going to look for Scragglers to pick off. It looks like Harstem's got a pretty solid defense here, though. These Lings are... Oh, and with the Photon Overcharge on the Nexus. TLO is going to try the pressure, and he's focusing straight onto the Nexus. This could still work out. This is a lot of Zerglings. They're doing a lot of damage fast to this Nexus. The Zealots weren't quite in high enough numbers to wipe them out. The Nexus is going to fall. TLO's even going to catch some more forces out front. Oh, and TLO slips by into the main. These slippery little Zerglings. Harstem can't deal. A Twilight Council? More gateways coming up. He does have a robotics facility, but Harstem's run out of men. Harstem has 4 Zealots. They were coming out of the main. Looks like some Manor Banelings are coming in. Right in front of Harstem's face. They're going to have to be cancelled, though. With the sentries, Harstem is going to stabilize. He's still losing some units, but he has some Zealots to deal with that, and the +1 is going to make him very cost-effective in wiping out these Zealots. However, if we look at the units lost, we see that TLO has had some amazing cost-effectivity so far. The third has been recreated, but that's just going to take an eye from TLO to spot out, and he's going to be able to wipe that out. Now, their worker counts are very similar, so it is possible for Harstem to stabilize here. Oh, man, that's kind of nasty. You really don't want Zerglings directly on your sentries. He's going to have to use a couple force fields. He only loses 1 sentry there. Scratch that, make it 2. But TLO has seen that he is trying to reestablish the third. And as I was saying, the worker counts are incredibly similar. It looks like TLO did switch off. He got out a round of drones, so he beefed that up. That statement is no longer true. It's now 69 to 51. And Harstem. Win behind Dark Shrine. TLO is probably going to spot this. He's got an amazing Overseer timing. It's going to head straight for the main. Harstem, I think, has enough to defend against any kind of follow-up Zergling pressure, but follow-up Zergling pressure is not what TLO's planning on. He's got the upgrades coming, and he's got the production coming for Roaches. Harstem's proxy to support the Dark Templar play is found out. And meanwhile, behind this, TLO has gotten out of 4th base. He hasn't done much creep spread, but to this point, he's used very fast units. He's used Zerglings that don't really rely on the creep. Harstem has a somewhat respectable army here, never mind. TLO producing Roaches has got a huge army count over Harstem. Harstem has seen the Roaches with the hallucinated Phoenix, and now, especially with the Mothership Core, he does have a Photon Overcharge. He's got a lot of sentries here. Dark Templar are also in play. TLO's going to make a run straight into the natural, though. He's going to go right through this forge. He was getting +2. +2's not going to finish. Photon Overcharge does hit the natural Nexus. There is an Immortal in play. And it looks like some Warp-ins. Dark Templar are very clever. That's going to keep that Immortal alive. I've got a feeling that these Roaches are forfeit. I don't think TLO is going to be able to get these out. And with his close on the tail of TLO Harstem is, Harstem's going to be able to take this out pretty quick and easy. TLO's also streaming roaches in. Roaches one at a time are super cost ineffective against this composition of Harstem. He does have quite a few at the natural, though, and he's heading straight for the third with those, and he's also delaying even further with these roaches in the main. The Dark Templar, though, are picking TLO to pieces. Dark Templar with Immortals, perfect way to deal with roach pressure, especially since TLO doesn't seem, here we go, doesn't seem to have an Overseer herd. He does now, though, and it looks like he's just going to go mad production mode. He's getting up macro hatcheries. Actually, I guess one macro hatchery. He's also getting up a Hydralisk den, and he is continuing with his ranged damage upgrades. Into the third he comes. The army count shows that TLO does have a pretty solid advantage. His Overseers are not in place. Okay, they're close, so he can deal with the Dark Templar. And I like how he's spreading them out. He's sending just one forward, so that if Harstem picks one off, he's still got two in reserve. The Photon Overcharge, the Force Fields, the Immortals, the Dark Templar, it's going to hold everything off. TLO can't quite break it. Harstem is sending a Warp Prism out. That might be close enough for him to warp here to load up. It might not be, though. Oh, Harstem, with the tricky side pressure, he got another Warp Prism out. And he's bringing some Zealots in. TLO is expecting it, though. A Spine Crawler is going to buy just enough time to allow TLO to respond to this. And a Dark Templar and a Zealot is going to be the order of the day. Harstem looking for a very fast fourth base. TLO looking to be aggressive. Once again, I love the positioning of this Mothership Core. If we look at vision, that's going to let him see TLO's push coming in. And the Warp Prism looks like it's going to go straight for the main. The other Warp Prism, sitting out here at the fourth base, is ready to do some harassment as this push commences from TLO. It looks like Harstem's defenses are pretty solid. TLO doesn't have very many Hydras in here, so Harstem's composition is still very good against TLO's. TLO does use the Zerglings to cancel the fourth base of Harstem. He's going to attempt to pick off a Cybernetics core. Harstem, though, is going to jump into the main. We've seen some drones go down. The drone count, actually, he's only killed 3 so far, but he's taken out a gas. He's taken out some technology as well. Hydralisks with an Overseer should allow TLO to clean this up. Meanwhile, he's going to push in with a few Zerglings on Harstem's third base, but that's not going to get anything done. Harstem's also going to use that Warp Prism to try to put some pressure on TLO's third, just catching the tail end of a lot of that. But you see, not a lot of damage is done. Most of it's being dealt with very quickly. Harstem has a pretty large force, but army-wise, we see TLO still in the lead. Now, Harstem will be able to reinforce this as it goes, so Harstem's army may be able to steamroll into a larger cost and a larger value. And it looks like we're going to have a bit of a base race scenario. Harstem's going to move straight up to TLO's third base. However, it says TLO's taking a fifth, so if TLO just gets the drones out, drones and the queen actually, then he's going to be a-okay there. Meanwhile, TLO moving into the natural. This is going to be huge damage. Harstem is losing structures that he desperately needs, structures that are going to delay huge parts of his game plan. However, Harstem's army has returned. TLO's army is split. Is TLO able to take out the third? I'm not certain. It looks like he may be able to. TLO's engaging straight up with Harstem's army at the natural. Harstem's using some good blink here. He warped in some Zealots as a little bit of a meat shield. And it looks like Harstem's got enough to take this out. Oh, however, he's not dealing with the third. The force of the third is doing huge damage to that Nexus. The Nexus will fall. He's got another Nexus coming up. And it looks like that's where he's going to try to send the probes. Meanwhile, TLO is in the main. However, Dark Templar are picking his army apart. It looks like he wants to kill some production. No, he's going to try to get out. If he can salvage this army, oh, he's not going to be able to. Harstem's moving into position. Harstem's going to be able to cut off this army and take TLO back down. However, we see that overall Harstem has still lost a lot more than TLO. And the production in TLO's base continues. Drones coming over, actually at the perfectly wrong time. These DTs may stay focused on that hatchery, though. Taking that hatchery out would be a boon. I'm not sure DTs can get anything done over here. TLO is cleaned up in the main. My god, he takes out the main Nexus. That push ended up being hugely beneficial. Hugely cost effective, even given how much TLO lost. TLO sacrificed his whole army for it. However, he sacrificed it to take out 2 bases and a number of miscellaneous tech and production structures. And now he's pushing on the very poorly defended 4th base, now I guess 3rd of Harstem. If this goes down, it's going to take Harstem down to 1 mining base, and that is going to be a very rough position for him. He's got another one coming up at his 3rd, but the income tab shows it all. There are overseers in the mix. This is a very costly loss here, this number of Dark Templar. Harstem's army is dwindling, and he knows that TLO just has too much production. His economy is still in too good of a position at this point, and he GG's to jump out. TLO proceeds through the Dreamhack group stages. This was Group A, and I believe, actually hold on, I didn't look this stat up. I want to say TLO took 8th in this Dreamhack tournament. My God, I stand corrected. I just paused and went and looked it up. TLO took 5th in Dreamhack, in ode to his recent performance. And I mean no disrespect to Harstem. I started this series saying that he's only really entered the pro scene recently. He put up some very good games against TLO here, especially this game. It went pretty long. His macro was on the cusp of keeping up with TLO. Really, if that Ling pressure would have been handled any better in the early stages of this game, this whole entire game would have looked a lot different. But TLO, playing amazingly lately. So, I want some information from you. This is something that I don't do very often, which is cast a pro replay. If you've enjoyed this, then let me know. This could be something I do a little bit more of in the future. Sometimes it's very easy to get discouraged playing Starcraft, and lately I've had a little bit of that. I've been making silly mistakes that I shouldn't make. I've been making mistakes that the second the mistake happens, the second the result comes to fruition, I instantly go, oh my God, I so knew exactly what I needed to do to deal with that. I just didn't have the frame of mind in-game to do it. It's been happening to me playing Zerg lately. It's made me think about just picking Protoss back up. I think they are my favorite race. I think it's safe for me to say. I think I like playing them more than any. It's also made me want to look for inspiration again, and that's one of the reasons I came to this pro match. But also, just to keep content flowing of StarCraft. I definitely want StarCraft to be a part of my channel. Now and forever, it's a game I love. It's a game I will continue to play, even when I'm discouraged. I just probably won't upload so much of my own gameplay content. If you liked this pro replay cast, though, let me know. I definitely wouldn't mind doing some more of this in the future. And then, by all means, if you prefer seeing the first-person stuff, even if it's bad, even if it's me not playing at my best, even if it's not near the quality of these pro matches, then let me know that, too. It's definitely good feedback to have. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, stay tuned for more.